Joining me now is Andrew Rasiulis, fellow Canadian at Global Affairs Institute and a retired official of the Department of National Defense. And Andrew, thank you very much for joining us.
Very welcome, Roger.
Let's talk first about Trump's threats to Russia. The tariffs, will that have any kind of impact?
Well, this is very nuanced, and there's a bit of a carrot and stick here. First of all, it doesn't come into effect for 50 days. So the Russians have 50 days in which they can run out their summer offensive, which is ongoing now, and breaking through here and there at little points. Gives the Russians 50 days to roll into September and conclude their summer offensive. So that's one thing. Secondly, the United States is not giving these weapons. So it's not like a Biden thing, giving them everything against evil versus good. This is about selling, making a profit, and other countries like Canada, Canadian taxpayers would be funding this. So it's a nuanced assistance. It's not full bore. And again, the tariff thing, what's important here is the secondary tariffs on countries like China or India that buy stuff from Russia, like oil in particular. The United States purchases almost nothing from Russia now, so there's no tariffs there. So it's a nuanced package. It's a 50-day window. We'll see what the Chinese and the Indians say, and we'll see what the Russians say. Right now, the Russians are responding very coolly to this.
How do you mean when you say coolly? They're not happy about it, or they're just not responding at all?
They're saying that it would be constructive to have dialogue. They're not lambasting it or making any counter threats. I think because they have a 50-day window, they're carrying on with their objectives, and I think they're calculating what their situation will be in 50 days. You know, it might be that they will reach a point of diminishing return with all this going on, and that maybe they'll take Trump's suggestion and look for a peace settlement. We'll see what happens. But, you know, there's some incentive here for Putin, and Putin has some time.
Can you see India and China putting pressure on Russia?
They may be leaning on them because the Chinese and the Indians like to buy discounted Russian oil, and they would like to continue to do that. And they don't necessarily want to get into a further tariff war with the United States for doing so. So I think, from a Chinese and Indian point of view, as long as, well, from a Chinese point of view particularly, as long as Russia does not lose this war, Chinese have been very clear about that. They want the Russians to come out of this with something. And of course, Putin has to come out with something to back to his ultranationalist audience at home to say, I've delivered something. So I think we'll see what the Chinese and Indians do as well. They're going to play it very carefully, I think. And
then with the weapons, why is it important that NATO buys the weapons and then sends them to Ukraine?
Well, Trump is saying that's a clear policy statement here. The war in Ukraine is not a first priority for Trump and his administration. That's why they're not giving the weapons the way Biden did. That's a huge difference. They're going to sell the weapons. So make a profit, no cost to the United States, in fact, some profit for the United States. Under that arrangement, he's happy to go along. But again, he's maintaining his mediator role. He's not backing Ukraine full hilt, defeat Russia, and so on and so forth. He is trying to still balance, and he's giving him Putin 50 days. So he's selling, making some money, not costing the U.S., and still leaving himself in a position as a mediator to maybe broker a deal 50 days from now.
Okay. Andrew Rasiulis, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome, Roger.
Well, it comes